Okay, welcome to a remote meeting of the Statutory Licensing Subcommittee taking place on Tuesday, the 27th of October 2020, which is being recorded live to the Council's website, will be available to be viewed for a minimum of 6 months. I'm Councillor Linda Marshall and I will be chairing today's meeting, and I'm joined today by Councillors Carol Hampson, Amanda Hopgood, Leanne Kennedy and Marion Wilson. If my connection is lost, Councillor Hampson will take over until my connection is restored. Before I commence with the formal business on the agenda, I would like to cover some of the housekeeping issues for us to follow. If you could mute your microphones. If you want to speak, use the chat function on the right-hand side and type RTS, which is request to speak. Remember, everyone in the meeting can see the messages in the chat function. When invited to speak by me, remember to unmute your microphone. Once invited to speak, please introduce yourself with your name and position, unless you have already introduced yourself earlier in the meeting. If you're having issues with connectivity, try switching off your video and use just the telephone function. If connectivity issues continue, you may have to leave the meeting and rejoin to get a better signal. So the agenda, Jill, have we any apologies for absence?
There are no apologies for absence, Chair.
Thank you. Have we any substitutes?
No substitute members, Chair.
Members, have we any declarations of interest?
Councillor Leanne Kennedy, I'd like to declare an interest and leave the meeting, Chair.
Okay, thank you for that, Leon. Take care. So we have minutes of meetings held on 31st of July, 7th of September and the 18th of September. Can we agree the minutes, please?
Yeah, Councillor Hopgood, and move the minutes, Chair.
Thank you very much. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second that, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Does any member have any comments on the minutes? Okay, thank you. The minutes are agreed. So now to item 5, an application to vary the premises licence to specify an individual as a designated premises supervisor for the new Westley Seam. So I'd like to welcome all parties, the applicant, Carol Madeley, Sergeant Caroline Dickerson, who will be joining us shortly, and Sarah Norman of Down Constabulary. We're joined by licensing team leader Helen Johnson, committee services officers Jill Arrington and Paula Nicholson, and the legal advisor to the subcommittee today is Jill Proud. We are only having 3 of the 4 members present to make the decision. Now I'm going to ask Jill Proud to explain why we do this and to run through the procedure, please.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. As you're aware, this is a statutory licensing hearing in accordance with the Licensing Act 2003, and that means, as Councillor Marshall has explained, only 3 members are entitled to make the decision today. However, during any hearing, there is always a risk that a conflict of interest can arise, or a member takes ill, or in circumstances like now, that there are issues with connection. As a result, the individuals will then have to retire, and if this was to happen, it would mean that today's hearing would be in court and a new hearing would have to be arranged. Therefore, to ensure that this doesn't occur, additional members are asked to sit in and listen to the information, and then they can stand in for any member if they are forced to retire. In relation to the proceedings for today's hearing, we'll hear from Mrs Johnson, the licensing team leader, regarding the application to vary the premises licence to specify an individual as a designated premises supervisor for the new Wesley and Seam. Mrs Johnson will outline the licensing report with questions following this. We'll then hear from the police regarding their representations together with questions, and finally we'll hear from Miss Carol Madeley, the applicant. Once the representations have been made and all questions asked, then the parties will sum up, and after that the subcommittee will retire to deliberate in private. All parties will be notified by telephone either later in the day off or the following morning of the outcome, and there will also be a formal written notice. Chair, that's the explanation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to ask Helen Johnson now to go through the licence officer's report.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, everybody. I'm Helen Johnson, licensing team leader for the authority. So we received the application on the 22nd of September, which is attached as Appendix 3 at pages 29 to 32, for the individual, Mrs Carol Madeley, to be specified as the designated premises supervisor. Miss Madeley is also the premises licence holder as well. A plan showing the location of the premises is attached to Appendix 2, that's at page 27. Under the Licensing Act 2003, it's a mandatory condition that where there is the supply of alcohol on a premises licence for licensable activity, there must be a designated premises supervisor. And the guidance states that the designated premises supervisor should normally be the individual who is in day-to-day control of the premises. This is to provide a single point of accountability within the premises should any problems arise. For members' information, Miss Madeley has been the designated premises supervisor for the new Westley and Seaham since the 12th of August 2015. Recently, Miss Madeley notified the licensing authority to remove herself as the designated premises supervisor, and that was on the 17th of September of this year. She was experiencing problems with an individual, which obviously we'll go into detail later. The licensing authority actioned this accordingly, and a further application, which I've just explained, was received on the 22nd of September to reinstate Miss Madeley as the designated premises supervisor. Durham Constabulary, as part of the application, are consulted in regards to it. They have 14 days, and we did receive a representation objecting to Miss Madeley being named as the designated premises supervisor. That's attached as Appendix 4, which is at page 34. The options available to members are to grant the application or to reject the application if it considers it necessary to do for the promotion of the crime prevention objectives. Chair, we have been made aware that sensitive information relating to an individual will be discussed at today's hearing, and therefore I ask whether the public can be excluded from the hearing, and then this can be discussed in private. If I can hand over to the solicitor to explain further. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Jill, if you can.
Yes, certainly.
Thank
you, Chair. Thank you, Helen. I can explain that, or I can advise that Regulation 14 of the Licensing Act 2003 hearing regulations does indicate that hearings shall take place in public. However, there is a proviso under Regulation 14.2 where the licensing authority may exclude members of the public from all or part of a hearing where it considers that the public interest in doing so outweighs the public interest in the hearing taking place in public. From the brief indication that's been given, it does appear that the information that will be discussed today is information relating to an individual, and as such that information would be exempt in accordance with paragraph 1 of Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act of 1972. It is a matter for yourselves whether or not to hold the hearing in private, and in considering that you would need to determine whether it was in the public interest to exclude the public from the hearing. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Committee, are you in agreement with this application?
Yeah, Chair, given the information we've had, I move that we move the meeting into private.
Okay, thank
Chair.
you. Can I have a seconder for that?
Chair, I'll second that.
Okay, thank you very much. I've not been notified of any other business, so we will move to deliberations after the meeting, which are in private also. So from now on, the broadcast will end.